All right, continue.
The point I was trying to make was this. There's already an objective contradiction between the people and the establishment in America, and communists don't seek to create a contradiction or just voluntarily start revolution. They give political expression to this already existing objective development. The state in America is already objectively something that is crumbling under the weight of its own contradictions. The point of the Communist Party is to give political expression of this into a new, the possibility of a new state or form of political representation that can survive this transformation. There already is an objective transformation that's happening.
So you think that it's just gonna fall apart, and then some like Napoleon's gonna take over, and he's gonna be like a socialist somehow. He's gonna save the public.
Historically, what actually happens in history is kind of similar to that. Actually, I know you try to say that as like a crazy joke or whatever, but I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Objectively, the reasons why states fall is not because a party of people will it to fall. You realize that, right?
Yeah, and when did the Roman Empire collapse?
I have no idea.
So the point is, you're not just going to create a revolution out of thin air. I don't know what you expect us to be doing differently than what we're already doing. It's like when the Bolsheviks started Iskra, would you have just said they're not doing enough? I don't know what to say.
Because we don't really have a secondary option like everybody else had. I mean, what the Russians had, they were already prepared for revolution, but we're not prepared for anything. And the result of that is just gonna be Russia just going in and taking over our country. There ain't gonna be no actual leader to take over if it falls. It's just gonna be.
How do you want to prepare other than rebuilding the Communist Party and providing a platform for the dissemination of information?
We street action, but in a collective sense.
Street action? What do you mean?
It's like strikes and what else?
Well, I mean, there already are people striking. That's not. I mean,
that's liberal bullshit. I'm not going to work.
That's not something that I can voluntarily will people to do. It's not like something that I can't make people strike.
What you do is that you based on the poor material conditions of people, you rile them up and you get people in motion to be doing things, and then you take advantage of it.
That's a whole bunch of fucking nothing.
I have to ask you a question. Would you call this quote unquote direct action? Is that what you're talking about? You just get out there and you just get people to do stuff?
In a collective sense, yeah.
That's just not how reality works.
Yeah. Strikes aren't direct action.
Here's the problem. You see reality as this thing that's completely determined by the subject, and you ignore the actual objective reality that gives rise to different objective developments. You're not a materialist. That's the problem.
You don't say, you keep saying objective and stuff, but funny enough, you can't even mention historical examples of these things you're talking about.
Historical examples. Okay, let me ask you a question. When the Russian Empire, the Tsardom, fell, was it merely because there was the existence of a Bolshevik party, or was it that there was already a decline in the Russian Empire, and World War I had taken things too far, and people were getting...
Why are you giving me other country examples?
Well, there's no example of a communist revolution in America.
Otherwise we'd be living in communism.
Yeah, I mean, we can look at the American Revolution. That wasn't just started purely by voluntary...
Please don't say that shit was socialist. That shit was bourgeoisie. It was funded by bourgeoisie.
I said there is no example of a socialist revolution, but if you want an example of a revolution, I guess the only thing we can look towards is 1776. That's my point. There is no socialist.
Forget the socialist definition. The dictatorship of the proletariat. Which states have had that happen?
Russia, China, Cuba. I mean,
you don't think that was America, right?
What are you talking about? What do you mean?
Right, because that's what most people consider socialist.
I never said that America had a dictatorship of the proletariat. I and no one from Infrared has ever said that.
You said America was socialist. No, don't deny that shit.
When we said that America was socialist, we made a distinction between the dictatorship of the proletariat, or the political form that socialism takes, and the objective revolution in the forces of production. When we said that America is already socialist, we mean in the sense that the objective revolution in the forces of production has already happened. That's what we're claiming. Not that there's a dictatorship of the proletariat. In fact, in our early videos, we've very clearly said the problem is that there is no dictatorship of the proletariat in America.
So do you concede?
I mean, I don't really concede because like he's using the word socialist to mean like basically like a technological advancement in
it's
how
not
things are
talking about
produced.
technology. It's not about technology.
It's not
I mean, that's what these revolutions are. Like
No,
the political
it's not.
system
A revolution, you dumbass. The forces of production are not just technology.
I mean, if the political structure doesn't change, then it is. It's just
No, it's
technology.
not. There's also the relations of production. Those aren't political relations; they're material relations.
You get that industrialism and capitalism corresponded also to a socialization of production, right? The very mode of production itself changes.
Define socialization of production.
Well, instead of in the past, probably at the most fundamental level, you had peasantry, right? And they produced goods individually, and you had a few, small like artisans and so on in the city. But even then, their production was largely individualistic. With industrialism, now you have industries of scale. Where there's the coordination of
factories are mass producing things. It's not people. So it was technology that changed.
It's not only technology, dumbass.
It's not just that though. It's also the relations of production change. Like not only was there the socialization of production, but there was also there was a change from CMC to MCM prime, right? There's also like the very fundamental logic of the economy completely transformed. You can say that the technological changes corresponded to this, but that's not fundamentally what we mean. And I can give you an example of what we're talking about when we say that objectively the forces of production have already transformed or been revolutionized. If you look back, for example, in the 19th century, up until you get to around the late 19th century, you actually do have a kind of like free market capitalism. But as you approach the 20th century, and very explicitly in the 20th century itself, what happens? This free market changes into monopolies. There's industrial monopolies. There's the rise of finance capital. And there's the merging of all those things with the state and with each other. And so you get a new era of state-planned economies. Even the capitalist economies were still state-planned in this era. And Lenin, he talked about this when he was discussing imperialism, and what he was trying to say is that this already is a part of the transformation from capitalism to socialism. It's already pregnant with the seeds of socialism, and that was
Derek already lost the debate. Derek already lost the debate. Yeah, you already lost.
Nah, like his definition of socialism is capitalism. Like that's the ultimate crux.
You don't know what the fuck. You literally live in the Anglo box. You just believe in the Anglo box. That's why you're fucking confused, because you don't have a fucking understanding of dialectics, dumbass.
So, I mean, did you think that Marx was wrong when he said that capitalism would inevitably transform into socialism? Or do you think that Lenin was wrong when he looked at imperialism and he claimed that this was already a transition into socialism?
Yeah,
were they wrong?
Yeah, they absolutely
were wrong. So how are you a Marxist-Leninist? If you're saying you're right, but Marx and Lenin are wrong, how are you an
I never said.
Yeah, you did say you were Marxist-Leninist.
You literally said you were.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, in a pragmatic sense.
What does that mean?
No, you're not pragmatic at all.
Okay, what's the difference between your Marxist-Leninist strategy to win power and why isn't it just Trotskyist?
Because Trotsky is more. It's more about. It was planned in a way that was like already like a socialist reality in the country, and it was like more about.
Trotsky had a strategy to win power too.
Nah, he was with that Menshevik bullshit, but like that's different.
Yeah. So what's the difference between the Menshevik bullshit and what your view is?
Yeah, seizing power here is not like what matters. What matters is like defining what socialism is to begin with.
Why?
Because if we don't define it what it is, then there will be an illusion in people's heads of what it's supposed to actually be, and then nothing will change because nobody believes
You
it.
don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Socialism isn't a fucking idea you fucking impose on reality.
Here's the great irony, Dharok. The people who are not educated about socialism but use the term colloquially are using it in a much more correct manner than you are. Because it is an objective thing. Even if the form in which they understand it is incorrect, it is an objective thing and they are talking about it. Like when we talk about socialism, we're not talking about some special term with a special definition that we subjectively created. You realize that, right?
So you can't explain it in the definition though in your mind.
I've already explained it plenty of times.
No, you never did explain it. You just saying it's the natural it's the natural relations between production and.
I'll explain it right now. There's
in one sentence. In one sentence. Explain in one sentence.
Why does it have to be
Explain in one sentence, bitch ass.
Dude.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Hard. You're coping so hard. I can explain it in one sentence.
You can't even explain. Yeah, do it.
Give me a second to explain it then. Socialism is a revolution in the forces of production that will transform society from being fundamentally centered by the production of more profit, or MCM, into a society that has as its end a social end. And the way in which this happens is both an objective revolution in the forces of production and a political revolution in the form of a proletarian dictatorship.
Alright, so basically, by your own definition, America isn't socialist at all.
That's not.
What?
You don't have dude. You don't understand dialectics, so shut the fuck up about Marxism. Dialectics doesn't say it's absolutely one thing or the other. Dialectics says something is in the process of transforming into something else, which means it's not one thing or the other.
Yeah, but
it's
America,
both at the same time. It just depends from what perspective are you looking at.
I understand that, but it's not.
No, you
happening.
don't understand that. You fucking live in the Anglo box.
We're not in socialism at all. Like not even 1%. That's
not how it works. That's not how it works. There is a sense in which you can say we do live in socialism. It just depends on what you mean by that. If you mean to say we already live in a proletarian dictatorship, obviously that's not true, right? But if you mean to say that the forces of production have already objectively transformed into the fundamentals of a socialist economy, regardless of the political situation, that would be correct.
But did you hear that on Henry's definition of socialism that he said you can tell that if something's socialist by how like the socialization of people?
Here's why Henry is correct in the case of the United States. Because the pursuit of profits for profit's own sake is only maintained politically right now in America and only maintained institutionally. But if you actually look at what drives the economy, it's no longer profit, actually. Profit is no longer what animates the ability for our economy to grow or to reproduce itself even in any capacity.
Yeah, the bourgeoisie have their own politics,
profit,
their own political
and that's why some of the biggest companies that actually emerged within the past few decades operated at a loss, and many of them still do operate at a loss in terms of profit. These companies have as their goal no longer profit, so to speak, but almost either the reproduction of an expansion of the companies themselves and their specific social goals of transforming and disrupting the economy. Like, for example, Uber isn't about profit. It's not like the main driving force. Uber is about this vision of transforming transportation in the United States they're trying to implement and expand itself. And oftentimes they even have to create mystifications about what their real goal is in the place of the objective social ends. Like, for example, Elon Musk has to create an ideological mystification about Mars being the ultimate end goal of this whole Tesla thing and SpaceX, whatever, right? It's all about going to Mars, right? This is no different than when the Soviet Union would say it's all about the end goal of communism. It's all about reaching this end goal. They are creating all of these different end goals, and these end goals are not just profit. Now, they may be mystifications, they may be fiction, right? But they're not just profit. That's the fucking point.
Where
It's no longer money for money's own sake that drives the economy. Now,
I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that, but then
it's not. Money for money's own sake is still like the law of the economy in the sense of with the reign of the financial institutions and Wall Street and so on, but it doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work anymore. And in that sense, it no longer is what's able to drive the economy. It's what the institutions want to be able to drive the economy, but it's not in practice what actually drives the economy anymore. And that's why the system is facing the internal contradictions that it is. Because money for money's own sake is no longer enough to actually keep the economy we have now working.
You know what also is a great example of this? The entire social media social media sphere and companies. Like do you think, for example, they're making more money when they increase the amount of regulations they have and the amount of censorship? They're probably decreasing their user base and their money. But because they're pretty much an informal kind of state institution, that's kind of besides the point.
Well, you didn't really say much from that statement, but at the same time, you need to explain. You're saying that money is not their main goal right now, which I understand, but you're not saying what their real goal is really.
What do you mean the real goal?
Like what their actual motive is, because
whose motive?
You're saying like the CEO of Uber is
Their goal is this vision of Uber itself, of transforming how transportation works, and also keeping the whole thing together, and updating the software, and it's almost like a planned economy. That's what it is. Profit is just what they use to measure whether they're being successful or not. But it's not for profit anymore. Uber as a brand is enough as its own ends. Same thing with Disney. Same thing with all these other corporations. The corporations, the brand is the end goal. It's no longer about profit for profit's own sake. It's about the brand. That's what you don't get.
That's a very idealist way to look at it.
No, it's not. It's not idealist at all.
You're just saying the CEOs are basically running on idealist beliefs, so they just care about the brand. No, that's not what they're running on, because the brand coheres and embodies the entire chain of production that culminates in it. So it's obviously not just a belief or an idea or anything. That's just the end point. That's just like the conclusion of it all. As it's idealized. That's just the idealized conclusion. I argue shut your ass up. Shut your ass up. I got something important to say. Shut your ass up.
I don't think it's that important. What I was going to say is this. A really good example of this, just really simple, is kind of like how if you're a Twitch streamer or internet influencer, your brand is more fundamental than how much money you're making. And the money you make is just so that you can sustain the brand itself.
Derek, why do you think, for example, if I collected these subs monetarily, I would get more than double what I get per month. But I prioritize subs because it grows the community and it grows the brand. These subs are more valuable, even though monetarily they're worth half the money.
Yeah, that's what I would get.
If I got this directly in donations, it would be double what I get, more than double.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Right now, they're losing money because they want to expand. It's just another part of capitalism at the moment. That's not socialization.
No, it's not.
That's not socialism.
Henry,
they're taking money to destroy competition. That's what they want to do. They want to destroy competition. They want to expand the business to make even more money in the future.
Here's what you don't get. It's the other way around. It's the other way around. It's not that this is another part of capitalism. It's almost like capitalism itself became simply a part of socialism, or a part of the greater logic of how the economy works, but not the actual final end of it, or fundamental motor of it. Like the profit is not the point anymore. It's a vector of information.
It's for the future.
No, it's not the point in the future either.
It's just like stock investments. Stock investments aren't about the current price. It's about the prospect. It's all about the prospects.
Look,
You're just wrong, bro. I'm sorry, you
it's
lost this
not.
debate.
Okay. No, I have not. And what meaningful sense have I lost this debate? Can you prove that? Okay, at what point in the future then does profit become more fundamental than the brand? Because Disney is already pretty far into its future. It's been around for a very long time. Is very successful. And it's a very powerful company. So why is it that for them the brand is more fundamental and more important than profit? Why is it more important for them to put all these like cultural and political symbols and so on into their movies than it is to be more popular? Why is that? Why are they explicitly ideological?
It's exactly how the stock market works. They're sinking money for the idea of getting more profit in the future. It's like how it's shut your ass up. It's like how if you buy.
That's not even how the stock market works anymore. That's not even how the stock market works anymore. No, okay, if that's the case,
that doesn't matter. This is like a dead end.
Why did GameStop get propped up then earlier this year? If that's how the stock market works. Yeah, you don't have an answer to that, do you?
But I'll tell you this though. If you're a pirate in like 1400 and you spend all this money on a pirate ship and shit, but you're sinking a lot of money, but it's all for the prospect of getting money in the future. That's the whole point of it. You sinking money now, but you'll make money in the future.
Do you have any idea how stupid you sound right now? Like, do you have any self-awareness?
I mean, that's basically how like the stock market works and shit.
Do you have any self-awareness of how stupid you sound right now? So you're saying that the stock market works in a way that is parallel in terms of the mode of production to how owning a pirate ship in the 1400s works.
I meant like sinking money now for more profit in the future.
Yeah, but the fundamental point is not more profit in the future. The long term goal. What are the long term goals of Tesla? Is it simply to make more money, or is it to like go to the moon again, or is it to have selfless cars?
I don't give a shit about any of that shit.
It's this vision of the future that they have for how society will work and what kind of achievements society will make.
No, bro, no.
For example, Tesla.
They don't give a shit about that. They don't give a shit about that stuff. They just try to make more money.
That's literally how they raise stocks in this era. That's how they raise stocks in this era. It's not even just the promise of more profit. It's the promise of this vision. That's literally how stock raising works in this era.
You call me an idealist while you believe this idealist bullshit. Like all these CEOs are just like, they're just salivating all over these.
You don't even know what idealism and materialism mean. You really don't.
Why suddenly do you have an issue with idealism? You just defended it 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can accuse me of being an idealist, but this dude's an idealist too.
You were criticizing me for using the term objectivity, but I'm the idealist?
Yeah, I didn't criticize you for using objectivity.
Yeah, you did. You said I was using buzzwords, and you said, well, what is this objectivity? What is this object and stuff? That's what you were saying.
You don't even know what you're saying at this point. You're just like spewing out random bullshit.
I'm not
fucking annoying as hell.
Dude, you're coping. Why don't you address my argument then? If we're talking about random bullshit, why don't you address my argument?
You said some bullshit like this dude said like CEOs were just looking for money. He just said CEOs just care about their like brand and shit. They don't care about anything else. They don't care about their.
I'm saying
we're saying that all those other things have been assimilated into serving the brand, you dumbass. We're not saying they don't care about money anymore. Obviously they have to, but it's all for the brand.
That's very vague of what you mean by brand.
The brand is literally the entire chain of production that coheres the company. It's the whole company itself.